Members of the Clinton administration reuniting in Arkansas to celebrate 25 years since their 1992 election victory.
I'm going to keep speaking out. Apparently, my former opponent is obsessed with my speaking out.
This is the woman who rigged everything. If the left didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all.
The GOP tax reform plan clears its first hurdle in Congress. Lawmakers will now be picking up the discussion again after the Thanksgiving holiday.
With this tax plan and the crown jewel of it, more middle-class Americans have job prospects. They can get a better job.
Senator Al Franken is being accused of sexual misconduct. I know this photo looks bad, but remember, it also is bad. Oh, come on. He didn't know any better. He was only 55.
Come back around. It's radioactive.
I told you, because you're radioactive on the couch, Pete.
Well, no, I just made this all day yesterday.
Because I said yesterday I like Imagine Dragons. LeBron had a commercial a couple years ago, I think for Beats, where he was listening to this song, and I don't know why. My son's a huge NBA fan, so we get into the playoffs, and this song is good.
NBA playoffs are fun. You mocked me yesterday for matching with Rachel Campbell Stuffy, who joins us again today. Thank you for being here.
And no one will believe that we did not coordinate.
We did not coordinate.
Emailed last night, like, let's get him back.
I'm equal opportunity.
You know, it's funny. I wore this because
ballot.
my buddy Chris, he runs Gentleman's Corner down in Pinehurst, North Carolina. He sent me this pocket square, so that's why I picked this tie. It happened to match. And I mentioned that plug because I had to pay for it. He sent me a bunch of ties and pocket squares. I'm like, oh, what a nice guy. I got them for free. There was a bill at the bottom. So I paid for this. I didn't get anything free.
It's a bad deal. Well, great to have you both.
Yeah,
it's going to be a great Sunday morning here. Day two, indeed. Well, if you were up last night and watching a few things other than Saturday Night Live, which we will get to, in Little Rock, Arkansas, there was a bit of a reunion. I think it was it 25 years from the election?
From the 1992 election.
From the 1992 election. So Clintonites.
Obviously, they were talking about health care and the economy and like all the positive things in the administration,
all
right?
The things, that happened.
Oh no, wait, they were talking about Donald Trump.
No, yes, they were. So one of the sound bites that caught our eye was Hillary, of course, as she was up there with her husband, talking about the current state of affairs, and she talked about, well, President Trump. Take a listen to what Hillary Clinton had to say.
Apparently, my former opponent is obsessed with my speaking out. Apparently, there was somebody told me, tweet today. Honestly, between tweeting and golfing, how does he get anything done? I don't understand it. So maybe that's the whole point.
Oh, wow. So cliche.
You have to, this was the 25th anniversary. I had talked to a Democrat friend that was involved with that administration. She said that Democrats from all over the country were convening into Arkansas for this event. I mean, you have to believe that this was a bummer day to have it. This has been a tough week for the Clintons.
Yeah, you had Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from New York has Hillary Clinton's seat.
Right.
Went after Bill Clinton in this podcast with the New York Times just a couple days ago, saying he should have resigned because of the Monica Lewinsky scandal. And it's interesting. I'm of kind of two minds of this because Hillary Clinton, she seems obsessed with Donald Trump and with the election, and she can't move beyond it. Because you put this in the context of, you say, a bad week. She also did that interview with the liberal Mother Jones where she said Donald Trump was not legitimately elected. And remember, she was the person in the final presidential debate who said it was horrifying that she believed Donald Trump would not accept the election results when he lost, because that's what she thought was going to happen. No, the opposite happened, so she has not moved on.
It's a great point. She's the one clearly obsessed. It was President Trump who, after the election, said, hey, we talked about the locker up stuff, everything. We're going to walk back. We're going to kind of move past it. We want another chapter.
He has not, though.
Well, no, I'm not saying he's moved back.
Right, but now you just walked into a trap there, buddy. Because he is now saying, I want the Justice Department to do that. So he gives her fodder for this.
Fair enough. But in some sense, you could say it is also a counterpunch because she joined the resistance and decided to say, okay, I will show up at the inauguration, but is he legitimate? Was the election legitimate? I'm going to critique every part of his presidency. And then he started to say, well, let's look back at whether or not you're actually moving past the election.
You see this,
she's obsessed.
Well, what I noticed from that clip that we saw is just the lack of introspection that they have. That for the last, what is it? Is it been a year?
It's
a little over a year.
Yeah.
She's never left the stage, and she just seems to be obsessed and never giving people enough time to really miss them.
Yeah, and you know what Hillary Clinton is also obsessed with? Fox News.
Yes.
Watch.
There was nothing fast and easy about it. He didn't tweet about it. He got to work about it, and he actually got it done. Unfortunately, our body politics immune system has been impaired because there has been a concerted effort, starting with the creation of the Fox network. It wasn't there when Bill first ran. It was one of the reasons he probably survived.
Wow.
Came in around 1996, so she's saying it wasn't there for the first term.
If only it had been there.
Right, well, what does she mean?
If only.
There was less accountability for the Clinton administration?
I think this is one of the greatest admissions of the fake news mainstream media, that she actually in that moment recognizes that her husband did not receive the kind of treatment and scrutiny that he now receives because there's a network out there who's actually challenging.
Absolutely. They love a former era where there was no challenge, where the left-wing media...
All the networks loved us.
They all loved us, and they would let us, look at their stories and provide comment and edit them. I mean, that's the reason they got away with what they got away with. The two things they hate in that clip, you heard, Fox News Channel, because we actually hold people accountable and provide some balance to the conversation, and number two, Twitter. Because even with Fox News Channel there, you still have a massive fake news, left-wing media, and President Trump can tweet above that and set the conversation. And these news editors and newsrooms, they have to listen to what the president has to say. It drives them and the elites nuts.
And it's more than just Twitter. It's just social media, and it's more than social media. It's the internet in general. Remember, it was Drudge Report that actually really started getting this story going about Monica Lewinsky because the networks weren't covering it, and then eventually they had to catch up to it.
That's right.
Technology is not the friend of the Clintons.
Right, and meanwhile, you have...
We want the olden days where we can get away with whatever we want. And
beyond news channels, what's always been interesting is that the Clinton, the left, in general, the Clintons, have been able to benefit from shows like Saturday Night Live, who are sort of like, we're above the fray. We're not a news network. We're not a news show.
Or we make fun of both sides at the very least.
And we go after everybody. But instead, they usually just bash the right. They usually are bashing Donald Trump. Last night, after taking a lot of grief for not going after Harvey Weinstein and being really cozy after that scandal, they decided to unload on Al Franken. Watch.
Senator Al Franken is being accused of sexual misconduct on a 2006 USO tour by Leanne Tweeden, who posted this photo of Franken apparently groping her breasts while she was asleep. Now, I know this photo looks bad, but remember, it also is bad. And sure, this was taken before Franken ran for public office, but it was also taken after he was a sophomore in high school. It's pretty hard to be like, oh, come on, he didn't know any better. He was only 55. Tweeden is also claiming that Franken forced her to kiss him as part of a rehearsal for a comedy sketch they were performing for the troops. Come on, man. Didn't the troops in Afghanistan have it hard enough without having to sit through sketch comedy? I mean, people can barely stay up to watch sketches after Weekend Update.
Funny stuff, but even then, a kind of a light touch when you consider that they put Kellyanne Conway like in a gutter, right, talking to people.
You're right. There's a difference in how they make fun of Democrats.
Yes, no doubt.
No doubt about it.
Right. And by the way, super creepy that he was married and he put this sketch in to try and kiss this very beautiful woman, and then he talked about it on the House floor later on. On the Senate floor. So, I mean, this guy's super creepy. They could have been a little harder on him.
Well, thankfully, the Senate non-ethics committee will take care of it.
Oh, sure.
You've been on this for a few days.
For that.
Interesting. Saturday Night Live then went on to have Chance the Rapper come on. And what does he do? What does he do right now at this moment with all these big issues out there? He praises President Obama.
I feel like we're all gonna die. So come back around. Even though it's not allowed, we want you back somehow. I need you in my life. So come back around.
That was actually pretty funny. I think that was funnier than the Franken stuff.
Yeah, it is funny. It's their balance of like, well, we'll take a sideswipe at Franken, but we better say, even though it's not allowed, come back.
Right.
It shows also the narcissism of the left. I mean, by the way, we felt as bad about Obama as they feel about Trump, and they never seem to recognize that. We just don't have cool platforms like this to talk about.
What about when they need to be cheered up, they go back to the past? They have to go back to Barack Obama. It's just like for the last couple of decades, they've been focused on the Clintons. They have not rebuilt the party. They have not come up with a new generation of leaders. We talk about this all the time, and it's a fact.
Yeah, that's very
Selfish
true.
plug. I was on Greg Gutfeld last night, and
It was funny.
Watch the show. The guy is as funny or
Hilarious.
funnier than Saturday Night Live. I think it'll replay tonight. So we've got our comedians on our side that know how to make fun of so much that needs to be talked about on the left, because the so-called mainstream press never does.
Yeah.
They take a sideswipe. That's it.
I always think Greg's a comic when I see the 5.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, he is.
Well, I say that because he's always making fun of me, so I got to tease him back. Yeah, whenever I come on and do a live shot, he's like, boo. He doesn't want to pay attention to anything I say. So we have a nice little back and forth.
I like it.
We got a lot of other news. Country star Neil McCoy is going viral with his new song, taking aim at all of those anthem protesters.
Think of those whose freedom was not free. And I say, take a knee. My
Oh, yeah. Neil is going to join us live coming up.
And the push for tax reform is coming down to the final months of the year. If they pass it,
Looming questions about tax reform as lawmakers head home for Thanksgiving. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he'll take it to the floor after the holiday.
I think he should step
the big question now is, could success on tax reform save Mitch McConnell and the GOP establishment, or is it too little too late? Here to weigh in, Fox News contributor and former Trump Hispanic Advisory Council member Steve Cortez. Steve, thanks for joining us this morning. So we're talking a lot now about senators that may or may not hold up a possible reform bill. The irony here is, if all that outside effort from Steve Bannon and those that they're saying, let's ditch Mitch, could it actually force Mitch McConnell and some of the never-Trumper types in the Senate to say, well, we got to vote for this bill because our own political futures are at stake? So that outside pressure from Steve Bannon actually ends up helping pass the bill and help the president.
Right. You know, Pete, I think it very well could be. I am no fan of the establishment. As a Trump campaign operative, I railed against them constantly. And when I say the establishment, I'm including Republicans and Democrats who are the creatures of the swamp. And far too many Republicans, unfortunately, I think are counted among that number, particularly Senate Republicans, Mitch McConnell being chief among them. And I've said many times, if this were a business, the Senate, he would have been fired long ago as a CEO for his failure to pass meaningful legislation. Now, all of that said, can he save the day? I actually think, yes, he can. It's football season. Can he run a 2-minute offense and score late in the game? Can he be the John Elway of the U.S. Capitol? I think perhaps he can, and I hope he does. And if he does, I think the answer is yes. That will stave off a lot of the electoral insurgency that you might otherwise see, particularly in Republican primaries in 2018, and especially if they include some rollbacks of Obamacare in this tax legislation. That would be not just a touchdown, but a touchdown with a 2-point conversion.
Right. I was just going to say he'd turn into the hero, because I think it was pretty sneaky of him to add that at the last minute. And boy, that would be a game changer. Could it possibly, in some cases, especially after the trouble that we saw in the Alabama primary with the candidate that Steve Bannon backed, not being maybe the best candidate, do you think that a win for McConnell weakens Bannon's hand?
Well, I don't want to say it weakens Bannon's hand, because if anything, I think Steve Bannon on the outside is part of the discipline that is forcing establishment Republicans to at least bring this to a vote. I'm not sure, Rachel, that they would even bring it to a vote if it weren't for that potential pressure of Team Trump, which broadly includes millions of voters, certainly includes influential people like Steve Bannon, includes people like me who are putting pressure on Senate Republicans. It's almost like I almost view them as children. Sometimes children will behave better with a threat of punishment. The threat of punishment in this case is that we will primary you. We will have candidates rise up against you in 2018 if you don't act in concert with the 2016 electoral aims, which is roll back the administrative state.
Except that some of these senators are not up for re-election. Jeff Flake, probably John McCain, Bob Corker.
Right.
How do we get them
you're exactly
involved?
right.
And do you think it's going to pass before December?
And that's Rachel, you're exactly right. I think that's part of the problem and why we see the House, because everyone's up for re-election every 2 years, the House is being far more responsive, I think, to the people and to the message of 2016. You're exactly right. And unfortunately, a lot of these, what I call squish Republicans in the Senate, are not up for re-election in 2018. Unfortunately, that's just the bad luck of the calendar. So you're right. It's hard sometimes to get them in line. But I would hope, too, that they would be, even if they're not up for re-election, that they're not just crass politicians, that they would be respectful of the will of the people. What happened in 2016 was not a minor shift. Donald Trump was not elected to tinker around the edges in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
He was elected to smash the crony system in Washington, D.C. that exists for its benefit to the detriment of the people.
Steve, the frustrating irony is that we're literally going to primary you. You will lose your seat in order to get you to do what you said you were going to do, which means maybe
Right.
Steve Bannon was always meant to be more effective on the outside to help this president advance his agenda. You gotta put their political future on the line in order to make it happen.
Or their legacy in the case of those who are retiring.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, you do have to do that. And by the way, Steve Bannon, I think he's taken a lot of heat. Look, perhaps he backed the wrong candidate in Alabama, but he has also been such a force for change and reform in our government.
Yeah.
First and foremost, electing Donald Trump. But even since leaving the White House, and I think you're right, Pete, he is actually more effective on the outside because he's no longer burdened by having a government job, a West Wing position. Now he can truly be the representative, the people's voice for the American worker, for better trade deals, for a secure border, for a growing economy, for economic nationalism. And I think the things he's doing are exciting. And again, I think he's disciplining even establishment Republicans who hold office, particularly in the Senate.
Steve Cortez, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up, she's back. It's been nearly a month, but the feud between Congresswoman Frederica Wilson and Chief of Staff John Kelly, remember that one? Well, it's not over yet. What she's just said this morning.
And country star Neil McCoy is going viral with his new song, taking aim at all those anthem protesters. Neil joins us live next.
Good morning again. Some headlines for you right now, starting with a Fox News alert. A cop killer still on the loose near Pittsburgh. But police have now named the suspect. They say 29-year-old Rommel Sal Holt shot and killed Officer Brian Shaw Friday night after a traffic stop. He is still considered armed and dangerous. Fast-moving storms and a tornado ripping through central Tennessee. High winds knocking down power lines, blocking roads, and damaging several buildings. 6,000 people in Nashville lost their power. And former teen idol David Cassidy now fighting for his life. The Partridge Family star is suffering from organ failure at a Florida hospital and needs a new liver and kidney. The 67-year-old has suffered substance abuse throughout his career and announced this year he has also been battling dementia.
All right, well, one country singer has a message for those kneeling during the national anthem.
When I see somebody on TV take their stand on bended knee, whether it be on astroturf or grass, I think of those whose freedom was not free, and I say, take a knee, my
Neil McCoy released the song Take a Knee, My Bleep on Facebook Live a week ago and now has a brand new video to go with it. The two videos have already been watched over 3 million times. And Neil McCoy joins us now via Skype from Texas. Welcome.
Good morning, y'all. How you doing?
We've been enjoying this song for 24, 48 hours now on the program. And were you sitting around watching the NFL and say, I just got to write a song? Or how did it all come together?
You know, it's one of these, I wish I could take credit for it. I didn't write it. A friend of mine, Dan Roberts, wrote it. A lady heard him sing it, and she said, oh, my gosh. It starts by the lyric is, I pledge allegiance to the flag, and I say the Pledge of Allegiance every day. So she said, you got to hear this. And I said, well, it's exactly what I want to say and what a lot of people have been wanting to say, so I'll just go in and record it for the heck of it.
Go ahead.
You say the Pledge of Allegiance every single day by yourself at some level, yet some of our public schools no longer say it at all. What is your message to kind of society writ large about why saying a pledge like that or a song like this and standing for the anthem, why is it so important?
You know, luckily the schools around here where I live down here in Northeast Texas, where our grandkids go now, where our kids went, our grandkids go now, they still say the pledge. It's nice, but I hear the stories all over the country of people that have quit saying it. And I just thought, a couple of years ago, I used to love to do it in school and said, I'm just going to start it on my Facebook and see if anybody will say it with me. And now we've garnered quite an audience. And then in turn of that, because I do that and people know my patriotism and my background, when that song came up, this lady thought of me, and so I talked to Dan. He sent me the song. I said, that's right down my alley. So I just think it was, at least with this song, I think it's something that that some people are scared to step up and say something about it, but if you give them an opportunity to echo it through you, then they jump right in.
Have you gotten any negative reaction to it? And by the way, I know you like to play for the troops. Have you gotten a chance to play it for them yet?
I have not played it for the troops. We've only recorded it about 4 or 5 days ago, but I've been on 15 USO tours overseas a bunch. So I look forward to the first trip I get to do the song for them. But sure, we've gotten some negative reaction. You know, that's the upside and the downside is a lot of people like-minded like me are going to say, yeah, man, tell them, let them know how we feel. And then others say, well, you're an idiot and a racist. And so I guess when you do something like this, and I had no idea it was going to go viral, but now that it has, we're sure getting the other side.
And you obviously have, Neil, some family members who served. I'm sure you think about them all year, but you think especially around the holidays that are coming up now, about how much this is ingrained in your family.
It is. My grandfather was at the time, they just called it the World War. He received a medal, and on it says from the World War, because there wasn't another one, so it certainly wasn't World War I at the time. Wow. Then my father served during the Korean conflict, and that's when he met my mother. He was in the Philippines, and so I'm half Filipino and half American, and my mom always used to teach us kids, I'm the youngest of three, said, hey, look, you ought to be grateful of the country you live in. Everybody doesn't have these rights, and you ought to be thankful for them. And that's one of the reasons I think the patriotism kind of runs through me and has my entire life.
Well, Neil McCoy, where can folks find more of your music? This specifically, or what you stand for?
Well, NeilMcCoy.com is my website, and it's got all the hits and all the stuff we've been doing for quite a while. But they can definitely go find this song there. And this song is exactly what I stand for. You know, it's not a slam against the people who are taking the knee that they don't have the right to do that. I understand they do. I just think it's a kind of a wrong time, wrong place kind of thing for me.
Yeah.
All right, we'll check it out on the website. Thanks for coming on, Neil.
Neil McCoy, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Well,
Coming up, his son is home for Thanksgiving despite being caught shoplifting in China. But the father of one of those UCLA basketball players says it's no thanks to President Trump, even though he actually got it done.
wow. And Congresswoman Frederica Wilson renewing her feud with Chief of Staff John Kelly. What she just said next.
City, I just enjoy it. When the Santa Ana wins, it starts out with, I feel safe inside the violence. Exactly how I feel. Safe inside the violence. Check it out.
We're learning so much about you.
Yes. More than we wanted.
Yeah. Speaking about learning about people, LeVar Ball. Have you seen this guy? So he's like basically on ESPN on a loop. He's the dad of these three sons. One, Lonzo, is with the Lakers, is in the NBA. LiAngelo is one of the players there. You see him in the middle at UCLA, who got arrested. People make mistakes, but he got arrested shoplifting in China right around the time that President Trump was on his big Asia trip.
Right.
And there actually have been people on the left criticizing President Trump for pressuring President Xi and the Chinese government to release these three young men.
Which he did.
Which he did.
Why would they be?
They were pressuring him, saying, why did you focus on just basketball players when there's all these other human rights problems in China? So that's what the left has been saying, right?
He also didn't like his tweet about it, saying, hey, President Trump helped you out. Will you thank President Trump?
Right, so President Trump tweeted after the pressure,
I did too.
saying, I hope they'll thank me. Because they were supposed to be in jail for maybe 10 years for this shoplifting. President Trump puts the pressure on. They get released, and the players at their news conference actually thanked President Trump a few days ago. But LeVar Ball, the father, who's at the center of all this, decides to lash out. Here's what he said. What was he over there for? Don't tell me nothing, he's saying about Trump. Everybody wants to make it seem like he helped me out. As long as my boy's back here, I'm fine. I'm from L.A. I've seen a lot of worse things happen than a guy taking some glasses. My son has built up enough character that one bad decision doesn't define him.
So a swipe at President Trump, and you made this point as we were talking before the segment, that ultimately the dad stayed nice and quiet.
Said nothing.
Nice and quiet while
he was in jail.
Deliberations were going on to get his son free. Because as you pointed out, in other parts of the world, the consequences for something like this could be very, very dire.
He could be there for 10 years is what they were talking about.
Absolutely. But now after he gets home, now it's time to talk.
This is an example of really bad parenting. First of all, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, right? How about being thankful that that your son is back. And by the way, just in case the dad's not doing the dad thing, I think the tweet that Trump gave to the kids saying, hey, how about being grateful and saying thank you? I think it was sort of like Trump being a dad in that moment. And I can see from the way this dad's acting, I'm sorry, that's not good parenting. All kids make mistakes, but we don't enable them like that.
He's also been